The text message glowed on my phone screen like a neon sign advertising betrayal. Family celebration tonight. Don't wait up. XOXO Charlotte. I stared at those words from my rooftop deck, a beer growing warm in my hand, wondering when my wife of 8 years had become such a creative liar. Family celebration. Right. The only family Charlotte cared about celebrating was the one that came with stock options and corner offices. My name is Eli Carter, but everyone calls me Eli. I'm 38, run a small computer repair shop, and until tonight, I thought I had a pretty good marriage. Charlotte works downtown at Morrison & Associates, some fancy marketing firm where everyone wears suits that cost more than my monthly rent used to be. We bought this 3-story house in Portland's Old Port District back when I still believed in things like trust and shared bank accounts. The October wind cut through my jacket as I scrolled through social media, a habit Charlotte always mocked. Only losers spend their nights on Facebook, Eli. Well, this loser was about to get educated. 3 scrolls down, there it was, a photo posted by Megan Walsh, Charlotte's best friend and fellow corporate climber. The image showed Charlotte pressed against some guy in an expensive suit, his hand firmly planted on her ass, both of them laughing at what looked like a rooftop cocktail party. The caption read, "When the boss throws the best parties. Number corporate life, number living our best life." I took a screenshot, then another. Then I started thinking. The guy in the photo was Victor Darrow, Charlotte's new department head. I'd met him exactly once at the company Christmas party last year. Tall, silver-haired, the kind of guy who wore cufflinks unironically and talked about his weekend house in the Hamptons, married to some pharmaceutical heiress, or so Charlotte had mentioned. Apparently, marriage vows were more like suggestions in their social circle. I finished my beer and headed downstairs to my basement workshop. If Charlotte wanted to play games, she'd picked the wrong opponent. I might not have her MBA or her designer wardrobe, but I had something she'd forgotten about. I knew every password, every account, every digital footprint of our shared life. 20 minutes later, I'd frozen our joint credit cards, transferred our shared savings to an account only I could access, and changed every password on every streaming service, utility account, and online subscription we had. The cable bill, the electric company, the mortgage payment system, all locked down tighter than Fort Knox. Charlotte could have her family celebration, but she'd be paying for it with her own money. My phone buzzed. A text from Charlotte. "Having amazing time. Don't wait up. Might crash at Megan's." I typed back, "Trips canceled. Don't rush home." Then I poured myself another beer and started planning. The next morning, I changed the locks. All of them. Front door, back door, the side entrance she used when she came home late from client dinners. I also reset the security system code and had the garage door opener reprogrammed. By the time Charlotte's Lexus pulled into our driveway at 11 a.m., she was effectively locked out of her own house. I watched from the living room window as she tried her key, then tried it again, then started pounding on the front door. She was still wearing last night's outfit, a black cocktail dress I'd bought her for our anniversary. The irony wasn't lost on me. "Eli! E-L-I! What the hell is wrong with the door?" I took my time answering, stopping to grab my phone and start recording. When I finally opened the door, Charlotte pushed past me, her face flushed with anger, and what I suspected was a hangover. "What kind of childish game is this?" she demanded. "The locks, the credit cards. Megan's card got declined at breakfast because you froze our joint account." "Funny thing about joint accounts," I said, still recording. "They require trust. And trust requires honesty. How was the family celebration, Charlotte?" She went very still. "What are you talking about?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshot. This family celebration. Though I have to say, Victor's looking pretty cozy for a family member. Is he your cousin, stepbrother, or just the guy you've been screwing behind my back? Charlotte's face went through several interesting color changes. "Eli, I can explain." "Oh, I'm sure you can. You always were creative with explanations. But here's the thing, I don't actually want to hear them. I showed her my phone screen, where I'd pulled up her text messages with Victor. See, while you were having your family celebration, I was having my own little party with your cloud backup. Can't wait to feel your hands on me again. Eli will never suspect. Maybe we should get a hotel room next time instead of using his workshop. That last one really stung, by the way. I built that workshop with my own hands. Charlotte grabbed for my phone, but I stepped back. You hacked my private messages? That's illegal. So is adultery in some states. Lucky for you, Maine's no fault. Unlucky for you, I've already talked to a lawyer. I hadn't, but she didn't need to know that. I hope Victor's got deep pockets because you're going to need them. My phone buzzed with a text. I glanced at it and couldn't help but smile. Oh, this is interesting. Megan wants you to call her immediately. Apparently Victor's wife saw the same photos I did. Something about her hiring a private investigator and filing for divorce. Funny how these things snowball. Charlotte's face went white. You're lying. Am I? Why don't you call Victor and ask him how his morning's going? She fumbled for her phone, dialing with shaking fingers. I listened to her side of the conversation. Victor? Victor, what's happening? Slow down, I can't understand. She what? How did she find out? No, we need to think about this rationally. I left her in the living room having her panic attack and went to make coffee. This was going to be a long day, but for the first time in months, I was actually enjoying myself. That evening, I drove to the Old Anchor, a dive bar near the waterfront where I'd been drinking since before Charlotte decided beer was too blue-collar for her image. The place hadn't changed in 20 years. Same sticky floors, same neon Budweiser sign, same smell of fried food and poor decisions. It was perfect. Frankie Morrison was already at his usual stool, nursing a whiskey and watching the Red Sox lose on the ancient TV above the bar. Frankie was an ex-cop who'd taken early retirement after a back injury, and he knew more gossip about Portland's business community than the Society page editor. Well, he said as I sat down, if it isn't the newly single Eli Carter. Word travels fast in this town. I'm not single yet, I said, ordering a beer, but I'm working on it. Heard your wife got caught with her hand in the corporate cookie jar. Victor Darrow, right? Guy's got a reputation. This is what, his third affair this year? Third that you know about. Frankie laughed. Fair point. His wife's no saint either, but she's got family money, pharmaceutical fortune. Word is, she's already frozen his assets and hired the nastiest divorce lawyer in New England. Good for her. Gets better. Your wife's friend Megan, the one who posted those photos, turns out she's been playing both sides. She's sleeping with Victor, too. I nearly choked on my beer. You're kidding. Scout's honor. My cousin works in HR at Morrison and Associates. Says there's been rumors for months about inappropriate conduct in the marketing department. Three-way situation, if you catch my meaning. The pieces were falling into place beautifully. Any chance your cousin might be interested in an anonymous tip about said inappropriate conduct? Frankie grinned. I think that could be arranged. I spent the next hour filling Frankie in on my discoveries, and he filled me in on the local rumors. By the time I left the Old Anchor, I had a much clearer picture of what I was dealing with, and a much better plan for dealing with it. The next morning, I paid a visit to my neighbor Patsy Chen, who worked as a clerk at City Hall and knew everyone's business. Patsy was in her 60s, lived alone with 3 cats, and had never forgiven Charlotte for complaining about her wind chimes. I was wondering when you'd come by, Patsy said, inviting me in for coffee. Saw all the drama yesterday. Your wife screaming on the front porch, the locksmith, that fancy car speeding away. Very entertaining. I aim to please. Listen, Patsy, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Have you seen Charlotte bringing anyone to the house when I'm not there? Patsy's eyes lit up. Oh, honey. You really want to know? I really do. That silver-haired man in the expensive car. He's been coming by for months, usually around lunchtime when you're at the shop. Always parks around the corner, like that makes it less obvious. Last week I saw them on your back deck, and let me tell you, they weren't discussing business. Well, not the kind you'd want your husband knowing about. How many times? At least a dozen that I saw. Probably more when I wasn't looking. I thought about saying something, but she shrugged. Wasn't my place. It is now. Would you be willing to make a statement about what you saw for divorce proceedings? Honey, I'd be delighted. That afternoon, I put my plan into motion. First, I used my old IT skills to access Victor's work email. He'd been using the same password for everything since college, according to his LinkedIn profile. The man's cybersecurity was about as solid as his marriage vows. What I found was better than I'd hoped. Months of explicit emails between Victor and Charlotte, discussing their affair in graphic detail. Plans to meet at my house, complaints about having to sneak around, even discussions about what they'd do if I found out. The best part? Victor had been forwarding some of these emails to his personal account, which meant they existed on company servers. I forwarded everything to Victor's boss, his wife's lawyer, and Morrison and Associates' HR department. Then I sent copies to my own email and printed hard copies for my lawyer. But I wasn't done. I'd also found emails between Victor and Megan, confirming Frankie's gossip about their relationship. Three-way affair, office politics, company resources being used for personal business. HR was going to have a field day. My phone rang. Charlotte. Eli, we need to talk. Victor's been suspended from work, and there's going to be an investigation. Someone sent HR a bunch of private emails. Gee, that's terrible. Who would do such a thing? This isn't a joke. My job could be at risk, too. We need to present a united front, show that our marriage is solid. I laughed. Our marriage? Charlotte, our marriage ended the moment you decided to use my workshop as your personal love nest. The only thing we need to discuss is how fast you can pack your things. I'm not going anywhere. This is my house, too. Actually, it's not. Check the deed. I bought this place before we got married, remember? You wanted to keep your credit separate for professional reasons. Funny how that works out. The line went quiet. Then, you bastard. You planned this. I planned to trust my wife. You planned to cheat on me with your boss. I'd say your plan worked out better than mine right up until it didn't. She hung up. I poured myself a celebratory beer. The Portland Harvest Festival was this weekend, one of those community events Charlotte used to love because it gave her a chance to network with potential clients. The whole downtown area would be packed with locals, food trucks, and live music. It was also where Victor Darrow had decided to confront me, according to the text message I'd intercepted from Charlotte's phone. I showed up early, wearing my most comfortable jeans and a flannel shirt, the kind of outfit that used to embarrass Charlotte at public events. Frankie came with me, along with a few other regulars from the old anchor. We positioned ourselves near the main stage, where the crowd was thickest, and the local news crew was set up. Victor arrived right on schedule, looking like he'd stepped out of a men's fashion magazine despite his recent troubles. Charlotte was with him, along with Megan and Charlotte's younger brother Sam, who'd always treated me like something he'd scraped off his shoe. There's the man of the hour, Victor announced loudly as he approached. Eli Carter, the computer repairman who thinks he can play with the big boys. I smiled and pulled out my phone, making sure the recording app was visible. Victor Darrow, the department head who thinks he can play with other men's wives. How's married life treating you these days? A small crowd was gathering, drawn by the obvious tension. I recognized several faces, neighbors, customers from my shop, people who knew both Charlotte and me. You think you're clever, Victor said, stepping closer. Hacking into private emails, spreading lies about good people. That's criminal behavior, Eli. Is it? Because I thought criminal behavior was more like using company resources to conduct personal affairs, or maybe using someone else's house for your secret meetings. But hey, I'm just a blue-collar guy. What do I know about ethics? Charlotte tried to step between us. Eli, please. We can work this out privately. Privately? Like your family celebrations? I turned to address the growing crowd. Folks, my wife here has been having family celebrations with her boss for the past 6 months. Real close family, if you know what I mean. The kind of family that meets in my workshop while I'm at work. Megan grabbed Charlotte's arm. We should go. This is getting out of hand. Oh, don't leave on my account, Megan. I was just telling everyone about Charlotte's family celebrations. Though I guess you'd know all about those, wouldn't you? Being such a close friend and all. Victor's face was turning red. You son of a bitch. You want to do this here? In front of all these people? I think it's perfect. Public place, lots of witnesses, very safe. I gestured around us. Besides, Charlotte always said I needed to be more social. This is me being social. That's when Victor lost his temper and swung at me. I'd been expecting it, honestly. Victor was the kind of guy who'd never been in a real fight, the kind who thought his size and expensive clothes made him intimidating. I stepped aside easily, and his momentum carried him straight into the face-painting booth. The collision was spectacular. Victor went down hard, taking the booth's table with him. Paint containers exploded everywhere, covering him in bright primary colors. A group of kids started laughing and pointing. Someone's phone camera flashed. Next time, use your fists for work, not my wife, I called out as Victor struggled to get up, red and blue paint dripping from his silver hair. Charlotte rushed to help him, but the damage was done. Half the festival had witnessed Victor Darrow, the sophisticated marketing executive, getting knocked on his ass by a computer repairman and then covered in children's face paint. The local news crew was already moving in for interviews. How does it feel to have your personal business aired in public? A reporter asked Charlotte as she tried to clean paint off Victor's jacket. No comment, she snapped, but her face was bright red. Any truth to the allegations about workplace misconduct at Morrison and Associates? I said no comment. I walked away, leaving them to deal with the media circus. Frankie caught up with me at a beer stand. That was beautiful, he said. Absolutely beautiful. Victor looked like a rainbow threw up on him. It's not over yet, I said. That was just the opening act. That night, Victor and Sam broke into my workshop. I knew they would. Charlotte had texted Victor the security code months ago, back when she thought their affair was a secret. What they didn't know was that I'd installed new cameras after changing the locks, cameras that fed directly to my phone. I called Frankie and we drove over to the house together. We found Victor and Sam in my workshop, going through my files and computer equipment. Sam was holding a crowbar, looking like he was ready to smash something expensive. Looking for something, gentlemen? I asked from the doorway. Sam jumped and dropped the crowbar on his foot. Victor spun around, his face still showing traces of face paint in his hairline. This is private property, Victor said. You can't just... Actually, it's my private property, and you're trespassing. Sam, what's your sister paying you for this little break-in? Must be good money to risk a criminal record. Shut up, Eli, Sam muttered, but he was looking nervous. I pulled out my phone and showed them the camera feed. Smile, you're on candid camera. Breaking and entering, attempted vandalism. That's what, 5 to 10 years if I press charges. Frankie stepped into view behind me. Evening, boys. Lovely night for a little B&E, isn't it? Victor tried to bluster his way out. This is harassment. We were just looking for property that belongs to Charlotte. What property would that be? Her collection of lies? Her self-respect? Because I'm pretty sure she lost those somewhere else. You think you're so smart, Victor snarled. You think you've won something here. But you're still just a small-town nobody who couldn't keep his wife satisfied. You're right, I said. I couldn't keep her satisfied. But then again, neither could you. That's why she was also sleeping with your girlfriend Megan, right? Or did you think that was a secret too? The look on Victor's face was priceless. Sam's mouth fell open. That's right, Sam. Your sister's been running a regular corporate love triangle. Very modern, very progressive. I'm sure your parents would be proud. You're lying, Sam said, but he was looking at Victor uncertainly. Am I? Victor, why don't you tell Sam about your special relationship with Megan Walsh, the one that started before my wife joined your little party? Victor's silence was answer enough. Sam stared at him, then at me, then back at Victor. Jesus Christ, Sam muttered. Charlotte said this was just about you being jealous and controlling. She didn't say anything about this. There's a lot your sister didn't tell you, Sam. Like how she's been using our house for her meetings, or how she's been stealing from our joint accounts to buy gifts for her lovers. Plural. I walked over to my workbench and picked up a power drill, testing the trigger. The motor whined loudly in the enclosed space. Now here's what's going to happen. You're both going to leave my property, and you're never coming back. Victor, you're going to stay away from my wife, my house, and my business. Sam, you're going to go home and have a long talk with your sister about honesty. And if we don't? Victor asked. I smiled and revved the drill again. Then I released the security footage to the police, the local news, and your wife's lawyer. Plus, I've got some very interesting photos from the festival today. Victor Darrow, covered in face paint, being helped up by his married girlfriend while his other girlfriend watches. Very artistic. I bet the Portland Press-Herald would love to run it on the front page. Victor's face went white under the remaining paint stains. He grabbed Sam's arm and headed for the door. This isn't over, he called back. Yeah, it is, I said. You just don't know it yet. After they left, Frankie and I spent an hour going through my workshop, making sure nothing was damaged or stolen. Then we went back to the old anchor to celebrate. You know, Frankie said over his third whiskey, I've seen a lot of revenge in my time as a cop. Most of it was stupid, violent, and ended with somebody in jail. But this is art. I'm not done yet, I said. The best part is still coming. Monday morning brought news that made my week. Megan Walsh had been fired from Morrison and Associates for violation of company policy regarding workplace relationships. The HR investigation had turned up evidence of her affairs with both Victor and Charlotte, along with falsified expense reports and misuse of company resources. Charlotte was suspended pending investigation, and Victor had been transferred to the company's Buffalo office, essentially exile in corporate terms. But the real cherry on top came from an unexpected source. Sam. He showed up at my shop around lunchtime, looking like he hadn't slept in days. I need to talk to you, he said. About Charlotte. I'm listening. She's been lying to everyone. Mom, Dad, me, probably you too. About everything. He pulled out his phone and showed me a recording. She called me last night, trying to get me to lie to the police about the break-in. Said we should claim you attacked us first, that you threatened us with weapons. Did you agree? Hell no. I'm not going to jail for her mistakes. He paused. She also wanted me to help her plant drugs in your workshop, make it look like you're dealing. She said it would help her in the divorce. I felt a cold anger settle in my chest. She wanted you to frame me for drug dealing. Yeah, I told her she was crazy, that I wasn't going to destroy your life just to save her career. That's when she really lost it. Started screaming about how you'd ruined everything, how you were going to pay for humiliating her. Sam handed me his phone. I recorded the whole conversation. Thought you might need it. I listened to 10 minutes of Charlotte's voice, shrill and desperate, outlining a plan to frame me for crimes I'd never committed. It was ugly, vindictive, and completely illegal. Why are you giving this to me? I asked. Because you were right about her. She's not the person I thought she was. And because what she's planning to do to you, it's evil. You don't deserve that, no matter what happened between you two. I shook Sam's hand. Thank you. This means more than you know. Just try not to destroy her completely, okay? She's still my sister. I'll keep that in mind. but I was already planning the final act of my revenge, and it was going to be spectacular. The Portland Business Association's annual gala was this Saturday night, the biggest social event of the year for the city's professional class. Charlotte had been looking forward to it for months, back when she thought she'd be attending as Victor's date while I stayed home like a good little husband. Instead, she'd be going alone, suspended from her job, and facing a divorce. But she'd still go. Charlotte's pride wouldn't let her miss it, and she'd want to do damage control with the local business community. I bought a ticket. Then I bought tickets for Frankie, Patsy, and a few other friends. We were going to crash Charlotte's pity party. The gala was held at the Portland Harbor Hotel, the fanciest venue in the city. I showed up in my best suit, which admittedly wasn't saying much, and immediately spotted Charlotte across the room. She was wearing a red dress that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment, working the crowd like a politician running for office. Megan was there too, despite being unemployed. She was sticking close to Charlotte, probably hoping their friendship could survive the professional disaster they'd created together. Victor was notably absent. Apparently, his wife's divorce lawyer had advised against public appearances while the asset investigation was ongoing. I made my way through the crowd, shaking hands and making small talk. Most people knew who I was by now, the computer guy whose wife had cheated with her boss. Some were sympathetic, others were clearly just there for the gossip. I didn't care. I had a job to do. The evening's program included a silent auction, dinner, and a series of awards for local business leaders. Charlotte was scheduled to present one of the awards, probably arranged months ago, before her world fell apart. I waited until she was on stage, microphone in hand, before I made my move. "Excuse me," I said, standing up at my table. "I have something to say." The room went quiet. Charlotte froze at the podium, her face going pale under the stage lights. "My name is Eli Carter, and I'm Charlotte Carter's husband. Some of you may have heard that we're having marital difficulties." A murmur ran through the crowd. Charlotte gripped the microphone stand like it was the only thing keeping her upright. "I wanted to take this opportunity to set the record straight about what's been happening in our marriage and in the Portland business community." "Eli, please," Charlotte said into the microphone. "This isn't the time or place. Actually, I think it's perfect. All your colleagues are here, all your friends, all the people you've been lying to for months." I pulled out my phone and held it up. I have recordings, emails, photographs, and witness statements that tell a very different story than the one you've been spreading. I pressed play on Sam's recording. Charlotte's voice filled the room, crystal clear through the hotel's sound system. "I don't care what it takes, Sam. Plant the drugs, call the police, whatever. I need Eli to look like the bad guy here. If he goes to jail, I get the house, I get sympathy, and I can rebuild my reputation. Victor will take me back once his divorce is final." The room erupted. People were standing, talking, pointing. Charlotte dropped the microphone and tried to run, but Patsy and two other women blocked her path to the exit. "That's not all," I announced over the chaos. "I also have evidence of financial fraud, misuse of company resources, and conspiracy to commit perjury. All involving Charlotte Carter, Victor Darrow, and Megan Walsh." Megan tried to slip out a side door, but Frankie was waiting for her. "The police have copies of everything," I continued. "The district attorney's office has copies. The IRS has copies. And as of tomorrow morning, the Portland Press-Herald will have copies." Charlotte finally found her voice. "You can't do this. This is harassment. This is justice," I said. "You wanted to destroy my life to cover up your mistakes. You wanted to frame me for crimes I didn't commit. You wanted to steal my house, my business, my reputation. Well, congratulations, Charlotte. You got a fight. You just picked the wrong opponent." I walked toward the exit, the crowd parting in front of me. At the door, I turned back one last time. "Oh, and Charlotte? The family celebration is over." The next morning, the story was front-page news in every paper in Maine. Local marketing executive caught in fraud and conspiracy scandal. The headlines wrote themselves. Charlotte was arrested on charges of conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted evidence tampering, and filing false police reports. Megan was charged as an accessory. Victor, calling from Buffalo, agreed to testify against both of them in exchange for immunity. The divorce was finalized within 60 days. Charlotte got nothing. The prenup she'd insisted on to protect her credit actually protected my assets instead. She lost the house, the cars, and any claim to my business. She also lost her professional reputation, her friends, and her freedom. The judge sentenced her to 2 years in county jail, suspended to 18 months with probation. Sam visited me a week after the sentencing. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Now that it's all over?" I thought about it. Satisfied. Not happy exactly, but satisfied. Justice was served. She's broken, you know. Completely broken. She broke herself, Sam. I just made sure everyone could see the cracks. What happens now? Now I get on with my life. I've got a business to run, a house to enjoy, and a future to build. Without Charlotte. Any regrets? I looked out the window of my shop, watching the harbor where fishing boats were coming in with the day's catch. Portland was still the same city, still home, but it felt different now, cleaner, honest. "Just one," I said. "I regret trusting someone who didn't deserve it, but I won't make that mistake again." Sam shook my hand and left. I went back to work, fixing other people's broken computers and enjoying the quiet satisfaction of a job well done. 3 months later, Charlotte was released early for good behavior. She moved to Boston, where no one knew her story. I heard she got a job waiting tables at a chain restaurant. Victor's divorce cost him half his assets and his reputation. He quit Morrison and Associates and moved to Florida, where he sells insurance and keeps a low profile. Megan never found another job in marketing. Last I heard, she was working at a call center and living with her parents. As for me, I expanded my business, bought out the shop next door, and hired 2 employees. The publicity from Charlotte's scandal actually brought in more customers. Apparently, people liked doing business with the guy who'd outsmarted the corporate cheaters. I never remarried. Didn't see the point. I had my work, my friends, my house by the harbor. I had peace, quiet, and the satisfaction of knowing that sometimes justice actually wins. The old anchor still serves the same cheap beer, Frankie still holds court at his usual stool, and Patsy still knows everyone's business. But now they all know mine too, and they approve. Sometimes, late at night on my rooftop deck, I think about Charlotte and wonder if she learned anything from her fall. Probably not. People like her never do. But that's not my problem anymore. Anymore.